There is a lot to be solved around essentially institutional custody of Bitcoin and kind of the schemes and just being, I think, really thinking it through what is going to be best for a given situation. How many keys, who's going to hold it. I think a lot of this is going to head toward multi-institutional custody, which I think is probably, I think it will eventually get considered a subset of self-custody. I know that's already kind of how the Unchained team thinks about it, and it's how we, I think, are thinking about it for Swan Vault, which we're launching in October as well. But this idea that if you hold a key and no single third party has the key or all the keys and basically is just holding your Bitcoin, but if it's spread out in a scheme that works, I think that makes a lot of sense. I've seen a lot of Bitcoiners warm up to multi-party compute as something that is probably the right way for most corporations and organizations to custody keys, or one of the right ways to do that. So I think there's a lot of advancement on that. It basically lets you swap out key signers, and everybody can basically use their phones with biometrics essentially, and you get your quorum together to sign a transaction or something like that. But it makes this stuff a lot easier. As far as the actual pitch and getting people on board, man, it's we're creating better vectors of attack, I think, and this nexus of activity that Dom is partially spurring, along with Hafa Zaguri, our chief investment officer, and just all the deep experience that he brings in moving institutions into new asset classes, which he's been doing for 20 years, and now applying that full time in Bitcoin. I think tools like NakamotoPortfolio.com, being able to look at what actually happens to a portfolio when you add some Bitcoin into it at different levels and with different assumptions, and then being able to use that as a tool that you can walk somebody through in a meeting. I think we already got a meeting with North Carolina to walk them through, and that was based on just us seeing that they were talking about it, and there's a Bitcoin friendly person on their board, and it's very easy to kind of connect over Twitter. I see that happening more and more frequently in the coming years. So I think just getting that story out there, folks like Greg Foss are out there, using the tool for his meetings, and, you can kick out your own slides and your own graphics and use it for your meetings, or change the code if you want. It's all open source and you can hack away at it. And it's kind of a community tool at this point already. So I think that will be very, very helpful. And then, I think a lot of this comes down to just when you're in an organization and you're on some kind of deciding board, you can only stick your own neck out so far. And so you need a bit of air cover, a little CYA, as they say. And I think that's what the BlackRock and Fidelity attempts to launch ETFs, even the fact that they're trying to launch it, has already made these conversations so much easier. Because if it's good enough for essentially the government's asset manager, their chosen horse, BlackRock, basically an arm of the government at this point, then it should be good enough for us to discuss as a union or a pension fund.
Yeah, the Cory mentioned that show, which just the right place at the right time. I don't know how I got so blessed, but seeing Hoffa's tool, this like created this. There's been a lot of discussion, and the whole point of that tool was to show institutions like, here, take a look. Like, let's just look. Is there harm to looking at how Bitcoin would impact your portfolio? Like, surely that can't be dangerous. Although, like Cory said, there's so much of this miseducation that just entertaining that thought, they're worried about criticism from people being like, "Oh, look, Bitcoin dropped again. You're so foolish for going to go on this show," and that's just noise. So this show with Hoffa and Foss and Carlasari is to get fund managers to come on, have a two-way conversation, learning about Bitcoin, but also learning from institutions. What are your worries? Like, let's not push those aside. What is your concern? Hey, you're a fund manager. You put a 3% allocation to Bitcoin and the volatility drops. What does that mean for you? Are you getting fired? Do you have challenges? How could you avoid that? We get to learn about that, and then we make a hypothetical allocation, which To the secondary now, we can also educate the participants, because at the end of the day, fund managers serve the participants, right? And if all of them feel a certain way about something, that's going to create a pressure that they have to either answer to, or it can be a supportive pressure where they can take a step into Bitcoin and go, I'm supported by 90% of my participants. They want this. Therefore, what happens is not all on me. And so with that show concept, we kind of want to approach the top of the fund managers, but also get the participants involved. On our first show, we had the Ontario Teachers Pension, and we highlighted that fund. In the future, we'd love to get the participants of a fund like that to come engage in the show and take a look, see how this can affect your pension that you're depending on to retire. And so there's a lot of different ways to approach that, but it's going to be an exciting journey. This second, what I kind of refer to as like the second layer of adoption, or not second, just an additional layer of adoption, which will be institutional adoption.